And I count 7 non-staffers here. There's 3 staffers, Kyle, Kathy, and I. So since we don't have an organized committee yet, first, I didn't know that's it. I think it's my first time with a brandy new committee.
Wow.
And
That's
I thought it might be nice to go, around the table, and if everyone might want to just introduce themselves and say which committee you are representative of, if that is indeed your, I think there's one at-large person. That might be no, it's not Mr. Lawton. Who is?
Mr. Sabin, I believe.
No, Affordable Housing
Jim
Trust.
Sabin is, he's the at-large.
Karen, real quick, if I could just read this little script.
Oh, that would be great.
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 23, 2020 order imposing strict limitations of the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Yarmouth Land Disposition Committee is being conducted via remote participation. All votes during this meeting will need to be conducted by roll call. No in-person attendance will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access and participate in the proceedings as provided for in the order. Public participation will be permitted by allowing members of the public to join this meeting via Zoom or via the telephone.
Wow.
Hey, Kyle?
Yep.
As a representative of Boston University, I object to the shirt that you have on.
I actually already got a compliment on it from another member. So
I agree with the shirt he's wearing.
Oh, man.
Well, I strongly object.
Well, it's cold in town hall, so I'm going to continue to wear it if that's okay.
Nice.
So maybe this is a good time. I think folks probably really do know one another. My name, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm Karen Green. I'm the Community Development Director. This Land Disposition Committee effort's been a long time coming. I know that. And I would like to introduce you to Kyle Pedicini and Kathy Williams. Kyle's going to be around for the most part. Kyle's going to take, responsibility for kind of coordinating with the committee, coordinating all the responses, the requests, and whatnot as we go forward. I did want to give you all a little bit of background on kind of the strategy that we've kind of been taking as staff, knowing there's a lot to do. What I hope everybody can understand, and we're totally open to suggestions and things, but this really is a work in progress. This is something, as far as I know, and Bob, maybe you can chime in. I don't think the town's ever kind of taken on an initiative or, specifically around land disposition. Maybe it's come up on one-off requests, but not in a wholesale coordinated effort. You have in your packet today are really the, we had a backlog, if you will, of requests on hand. And these are the kind of, never know which way to go, the easy, these are really ticky tiny, small parcels. We thought this would be a good place to start. We do have inquiries on larger parcels. We have some competing interests on some of these small lots and even indeed on some of the larger lots. So those could unfold, in an interesting way. We also have the starts of an inventory of town-owned land. And I think everybody on this call has, a parcel in mind. Well, what about this one? What about that one? And we thought about selling it. And I think that will be I'd suggest, and open to input, start off small and get our legs and go from there. And then we can jump right into that inventory.
Aaron, is there I didn't get a packet. Is there particular properties? I did see an email that Christine had responded with regards to was a property on 6A and then Mill Pond and another one, but I didn't get
It was my understanding, I have a meeting packet that I think, Kyle, did you sent to everybody?
1/13/21 is when it was sent out
Okay.
from Kyle.
Okay, so you should have received that, Jim. We'll double check your,
Well, I didn't get it either. I got the notes, and I've got the 3 parcels, but there was no other packet because I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, like
And
Brian said, I
Aaron-
sent out 4:38 on the 13th. It was kind of a larger file, so I don't know if maybe that has
Oh,
something to do with it.
Karen, wasn't several times the town
Yeah,
has done a listing of all town-owned properties. Terry Sylvia did it. I know that former town engineer,
Rick?
he did,
Mello?
Rick DeMello. So there've been 2 lists, and every
Yep.
time we go through them, we go through the same thing, that we have this
Mhm.
big list, and then half of them are restricted. They're drainage easements. They look like they're good, but they're not. And I thought at one point that list was refined so that it would be a complete, here's what you have to deal with.
Yep. I'd say
No?
it has been refined.
Okay.
We have an electronic list that was, it was even worked on most recently by Mike Berry, who used to be in our office.
Oh, yeah.
And he worked on it when he was over in the assessing division, working together with Ed. And so we do have that list. I wouldn't
Okay.
call it, I wouldn't call it super clean. I think there was wanted to do a little bit more cleaning on that, just to make it a little bit more objective. Just, but, and I see Ed is on the call. It's a great
Yeah,
start
was
to
gonna
the
do it.
list. I do think we need to refresh it. It's based off of
Mhm.
the Vision data system, and we probably want to just update it to make sure we've got the most current starting point. But
Okay.
does it make sense to go around the room and do introductions, and then maybe we can even have, you know, if you guys are up for it, elect officers? How about we get a chairman and a
Nice try, Jim Saban.
Jim just dumped.
I played this game before.
Yeah. Yep. Take that one step back, right?
Just don't raise
That's
your
the
hand.
ticket. You and I've been in the service, we know.
But I see, I don't know, I can call on people because I know everybody's seeing different things on their screen. But I'll just start with my top left. And that is Miss Christine Merzigliano.
I'm Christine Marzigliano. I'm chairman of the Open Space Committee. I sit on the CPA committee. And I'm probably, this committee was started with an objection that I made a couple of years ago at town meeting when that 10 acres going into Flex Pond either wanted to be sold or clear cut to put in solar. And it's adjacent to well fields. I thought it should be, kept, as well field protection. And my objection was because there was no peer review. It was just brought up at town meeting. So I think by having representatives from all our different committees here, we can come to a conclusion as to what to do with certain properties.
I see Jim Saban is the next sequential face.
Those of you who don't know me, I'm Jim Saban. I'm currently the chair of the Drive-In Site Committee. I've been on every committee in town at one point in time or another. I'm a real estate appraiser by profession, so I think looking at some of these pieces of property that we're going to consider, some of them we may need to have some sort of analysis as to what their highest and best is. And also whether it's something that, we have probably some parcels in town that could be utilized by different departments that others might not be aware of. It might be a piece of land that we could utilize for housing that housing might not know about. So or I'm just using that as an example, but I think there's a little challenge in that I think the town owns about a third of itself, so we own quite a bit of property. I agree that we should have a master list to go by and try to figure out a way to look at ones that are, we're not going to do anything with, and those that we need to pay a little more attention to. But to start with that master list would probably be the most helpful.
Hey, Baron?
Yeah, hi. I'm on the planning board. I'm also the representative for the Water Resources Committee. And I'm also an alternate for zoning, for the zoning board. I obtained about a year ago, when this committee was first formed and we didn't have any meetings yet. And we were just mentioning the idea of a list. Well, this list I got from
It looks like an ed list.
it's an ed list, that's correct. 88 properties on here, and on our agenda today, we have 2 of the 88 that are on that list. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how we can move forward on this.
Bob Lawton?
Just quick, I'm representing the Affordable Housing Trust and don't think I need to add anything to what anybody else has said. We're good.
Okay, thanks. Paul, I don't know how to say your last name.
Nobody does. It's Degnan.
Degnan.
Almost like this, and Paul Degnan, resident of West Yarmouth, and I'm representing the Parks and Recreation Commission. Been a member for the last 12 years on that committee.
Great. Mr. Rick Bishop?
Yes, Rick Bishop. I'm past chair of the Conservation Commission and still a commissioner.
And Kyle, I see you. He's on mute. I don't know if he wants to say hello.
Yeah, did Mr. Gardner introduce himself already?
No, I'm just going in order.
Oh, you're just going in order. I'm
So
Kyle. I work for the town. I'm economic development coordinator. I think I know a lot of you, some new faces, and it's nice to meet those of you who are new, but looking forward to working with the committee. Consider me your go-to if you have any questions or anything that you need in regards to this committee.
So, and then Kathy, Brian, I'm sorry. Kathy Williams.
I am town planner. I think I know everybody. I think I met Paul at our visioning workshop. So welcome, everyone.
Okay, and Brian, I'm sorry to jump over staff to you.
That's okay. I'm Brian Gardner. I'm the chairman of the Finance Committee. I also sit on the DPW Building Committee and the Personnel Committee. I'm a financial planner by trade, and I was appointed to this committee by two prior chairmen ago, Ken Muty. So that's my story.
Great. I see there's a gentleman with a blue checkered shirt, which I don't know. And I don't know. I'm sorry. Maybe it's the angle. Is it Mr. Ciavara?
It is.
It is.
Yeah, that was a strange angle for sure.
It was. So, and he's muted.
He's muted.
Would you like to say anything, Mr. Ciavara?
He's muted.
Okay, yes. I'm hoping he can hear us. All right, well, we can come back to him maybe, and Mr. Ed Centio is on the call, but not on the screen. And he may be away from his desk. So.
These always go so well, these Zoom meetings, don't they?
Well, we're batting like, there's Ed.
Ed Centio, Finance Director. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. Yep, but our staff and assessing did put together the latest inventory list. We did list all of the restrictions that were within the registry of deeds and elsewhere for each one of the properties, identified by size, totally unbuildable parcels. A result of one of the parcels that we're leasing for up to 30 years is going to result in $500,000 for the town for our wastewater efforts. And that's the Cape Cod Energy Park.
That's a quick question of Ed.
Yes.
You said totally unbuildable. Who's making that determination and how? We've had a town meeting before. There's no such thing. I don't agree with that, but.
If it's 0.02 acres of land, that is an unbuildable piece of property, and that's what is being brought before you today for most of these parcels. Totally unbuildable pieces of property that will have easements that will allow the town to do anything it needs on those pieces of property.
Okay, so unbuildable based upon zoning restrictions, but not any other restrictions.
Based on sheer size of the parcel.
Right, which would be a zoning restriction. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Jim, I toured these properties, and it seems to me there are two that are adjacent to existing properties, that if they were acquired by the owner and attached to their existing property, then they would have the opportunity to expand the footprint of their existing home or whatever. So to classify them as unbuildable, I think is inaccurate. I think that they need to be looked at individually.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I guess meaning not putting a structure on them because they're slivers of land in many cases where they're right on the road.
So I think.
But that's your judgment. That's your judgment.
Well, I think.
That's your judgment.
Rick, I think the idea being that standalone, that you can't do anything with them, but there is value in use to abundance.
Oh, yeah.
I think that it's a great starting list, and I think Ed in the assessing division took I don't know how to characterize it. It's kind of a layman's approach, I would say, Ed, if you think that's fair, with, a little bit more factors, but I think that kind of in terms of putting it through the building department or something like that to help determine.
I guess I was reacting to the fact that all of the restrictions that were on the property were identified to outline which properties we should not or could not sell, unless we did Article 97 or any of those types of things where, that may be the case. And some of these properties, I know Mr. Barron is thinking about solar on the Lynx course as an example. Could we actually use some of these properties for the Article 97 swap so that we can reuse existing properties that might have those restrictions? Not to say that that's what we want to do, but that's some of the thought process I think we should bring towards this particular analysis. So the restrictions are restrictions that we did get from the Registry of Deeds, and we actually linked out to the Registry of Deeds documents so that we could just take those types of properties off the table.
So anyways, with that, is there, and Bob, I'm looking at you. You can't tell that I'm looking at you, but but I am. Is there a a good process? Do we look for a volunteer for someone who might like to be chairman, or if there's?
That's always the first step. Jim's going
Okay.
underneath his desk again, so I guess we'd eliminate Jim.
Please do.
All right. Is there a volunteer amongst these fine committee members who would like to be chairman? And we will ably staff the committee.
Karen,
Wow.
it'd probably be helpful for everybody to understand the roles and responsibilities of this committee with regards to how we go forward.
Okay.
Sometimes we agree to be on a committee and It changes its face a few times and you're still there years later. So
No, I think that's fair enough. And unfortunately, I'm wondering, so the file that the meeting notice and supporting information that Kyle had sent out was about 14 megabytes. So it may have gotten blocked by some of your
Oh,
I just resent it
emails
to
or,
Jim and Bob too. And if
Oh,
anybody
okay.
else didn't get it, I can resend it as well.
but we can work around that because some of this information is plentiful. But in that packet, and Kyle, maybe you want to send it separately. There's the committee charge, and then there's the committee
oh, good.
procedure.
Oh,
So
that's good.
thanks, Kyle. But so this is the committee charge. Kyle, can you throw
Shared screen.
the policy too, please? There we go. So this really helps outline kind of what the goal is behind the Land Disposition Committee. The charge is really kind of perfunctory, just in terms of you're responsible for making recommendations regarding land disposition requests. And then the second part is reporting your recommendations regarding potential land dispositions to the Board of Selectmen. The process here, Christine was right. I mean, in my whole recollection behind this initiative did stem from a town meeting article that looked to dispose of property.
Right.
It was not well received wholly by the town meeting. Ed has been super successful and has done so much work on the Workshop Road piece, which I do think came out of that article at the town meeting. I think that the goal of the Board of Selectmen here was to develop an inclusive approach to disposing of town property. We have, Jim mentioned, you know, a third of the town is owned by the town. There's a lot of concerns that get raised around our ability to take care of those parcels. We can't always take care of them. But again, we can't always just sell them either, because they are restricted and they were taken with very specific purposes for conservation or parks or recreation,
Right.
open space, different types of things. So the way I see it, this committee will review and make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen on land disposition requests that come in. And these are like the two that have come in on the small parcels. Rick, you're right. They're right next door to, you know, existing homes. There may be larger parcels that we're aware of or have been requested. You know, one of the parcels that was in the town meeting article, I think, was a 10-acre lot off of, I think it's DuPont. You know, and that's a big lot, and we've gotten some interest in that from different parties. I think we're going to have to dive into looking at that parcel and how and under what conditions the town wants to dispose of it. And I think that that's where having this variety of folks around the table to weigh in on things is really valuable in terms of making a solid, saleable recommendation to the Board of Selectmen in terms of how to proceed. Called out in the policy, there's different procedures to dispose of property depending on how the town came to own the property. Tax title takings can be very simple. In this case, you know, some towns delegate that responsibility to different entities. This policy says that this committee, the Land Disposition Committee, will review those and make recommendations to the board, but the board can opt to dispose of those parcels on their own. Now, other parcels will require town meeting action. And some parcels, you know, the board may want town meeting action. Because
Mm,
they may, you know, and it's really all up to the board. If they feel a certain parcel merits a town meeting discussion and a vote, that could very well happen. So in terms of kind of the lift here, I think that we have, you know, some research to do and going through those lists that Ed's shop started. I think the question of buildability will come into play, and we can go back to those lists, sort them, get direction from you guys. Like I said at the beginning, this really is a work in progress. And it is a large committee, so there's a lot of people here who might want to weigh in. Jim, does that answer kind of your initial question?
Yeah, to me, right now, it seems like, I know staff has nothing else to do, so I'm going to make this suggestion because, what the heck? On the other 6 million things you're on your list, you might as well add a 6 million and one, right? I think it's important that we get that key list of properties, then
right.
create a spreadsheet that identifies properties that are restricted
Yep.
through 7 or whatever uses they were purchased for. And once we have that spreadsheet of all of the parcels, should any
Right.
of them come up, we simply look at it and say, okay, here's the issues we've got to deal with. Should we want to
Mhm.
dispose of it, or how we're going to dispose of it, and the like. But I think we really can't do anything until we have a handle on what it is, that inventory, and identify each parcel as to why it was purchased and even what its current use is. Some things we might have purchased for, I don't know, maybe a park along the river, and decide we were going to do a marina and then maybe a park again. So what intended uses were is helpful to this disposition process as well, because we go back to that ultimately as part of the questions that town meeting asks.
Right.
Buy it in the first place.
Critical.
So I think once we get that, then it's, the numbers of meetings that the committee would have would be minimal. It's simply to say, all right, this piece of property has risen to the top, and let's look at this and analyze issues we may have. Do we need an appraisal? What's the highest and best use of the property? Does it make sense to sell it to the abutter or put it on the open market to anybody? Those types of questions, but I think we need to identify those parcels first.
I think too, the other thing that you guys can think of through that process is under what conditions do you want to sell things? Because you don't just have carte blanche, why, you can use this for whatever, but you can make sure that it's consistent with ongoing planning efforts from each of your purviews.
Well, I think that's also part of the looking at things. Just because we
Right.
can sell something doesn't mean we should. We
Right.
need to
Agreed.
take into consideration long-term,
Mhm.
the town is going to be here long after all of us are. And the question is, what do future generations may want to need that for? So, I mean, it's an in-depth look that you got to look at some of these properties.
Karen, I was on the original land bank back in the late 90s, and that was a discussion we had often, is that we really weren't buying or acquiring the property for today, that we were really thinking about future generations.
Right.
Very important to us.
That's a great point.
If I could just raise one point with the committee, it's that certainly what Jim's talking about is definitely a goal that we've outlined, that we definitely want to make that a priority to clean up that spreadsheet. But I do think one of the more kind of the pressing thing in front of the committee is we do have 13 requests. People have made requests to the town. So I do think it's important to kind of be able to respond to these in a timely manner. I just kind of wanted to give that as a background as to why we're looking at the 3 that we're looking at today. Like Karen said, they're kind of some of the more easier requests, but they're also, they've been requested, over a year ago. So it is kind of also important that we respond to these requests in a timely manner as well.
Oh, we got 3 or 4 more years then using the town.
Yeah.
Concerning a year ago, the packet showed that our appointments were all made a year ago and therefore, the charge only says that we're to form the committee on a one-year term basis. So I think first order of business is we've got to get the Board of Selectmen to renew our appointments for the current year.
Great point.
That'd just be a note to Dan Horgan then, I guess, Carol.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think anything can change unless there's been a change in a committee assignment.
Right. If
I doubt it.
you know, I guess as everybody who's here, I mean, and maybe if there's anybody here who would not like to be on the committee any longer, let us know. That would be maybe the easiest way to opt out. But otherwise, we'll get a memo off across the hall and hopefully they can make that appointment as soon as possible, Tom.
And I'll also get a sheet to all the members so that everybody has everybody's contact information and so that people know who represents what.
So Kyle, are you looking for us to give you, with regards to these 3 parcels today, what is it you're looking for?
Yeah, so was looking for kind of a recommend. I don't know if you guys want to get into that part of the meeting now, but yeah, I was kind of looking for you guys to review these requests and make a recommendation whether or not you think it's suitable for the town to dispose of these parcels, or if you need more information to make the determination. We'd be happy to track that down for you. If you want, I can kind of give you a rundown on each one by one if you'd like.
Let's go.
Can I chime in too, and just going back to the work in progress. If there's information that we haven't provided to you that something you think would be helpful in general, please let us know. If you'd like things in a different form or something, please let us know that as well.
Yeah, I do. I will say, I think this can be organized a little bit better going forward. This was me doing the organization, so I think I can organize it a little bit better going forward. So you have the comments a little bit easier to digest from the staff level. But I just wanted to make sure I got you everything that we had. So if you want to start, I can start with the Mill Pond Road parcel. This was a picture I took of the parcel. It's just this little sliver right here in between 2 residential properties. So we've had two requests for this parcel. So Brian asked before the meeting how you guys handle that. It's not really for you guys to worry about. You're more so just making a determination on whether or not you think it's applicable to dispose of the property. And then the town would dispose of it through a open either auction or RFP process. So that's how that would be decided basically. But that's the picture of it. Here's the assessing card. You can see it's only assessed at $4,000 because it's a very small parcel. I believe it's I forget what the total acreage was, 0.03 acres.
Assessed at 3,300. I did get the stuff just now. Thank you.
You have a
This
picture
is a
map?
Point of order,
Salamini.
though. Point of order, folks. We haven't formed our committee yet. We have no chairman. We should be doing things in proper order.
Yep, that's a good point.
Are you volunteering to be chair, Tom? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, but I am going to jump in and make a recommendation for at least our first year of chairmanship. I would recommend Rick Bishop.
Nice face, Rick.
Tom, what did I ever do to you, Tom?
Oh, well, you better find out.
Oh. Hi.
And part of my reasoning is that you said you were on the previous committee that dealt with this before.
Land bank.
Land bank, yeah,
You mean, yeah.
the original one.
No good deed
Wow.
goes unpunished, Rick.
Yeah, it looks that way, doesn't it? I'm just,
How true.
uh,
Okay, well, I'll second that if that's a motion, then poor Rick, you know.
you want to see how red my face is? Just concerned with my requirements for the Friends of Bass River, my other hat that worried about this, but
Oh, right.
Hmm.
I can tell you that what I'm hearing right now, it doesn't sound like we're gonna have a lot of heavy lifting like every single month.
Oh, no.
Um,
well, as long as I can get help from Kyle, and
Yeah, I'll
Alan,
do
Karen.
all the heavy lifting for you, or try to.
thank you. All right, that's fine.
So I don't know. How do you
So
want to
you
go?
probably
It's
take a
been
roll call
moved and-
vote
It's
to-
been moved and seconded. Do we
Yeah.
want to do it like in Boston? That it's moved and seconded, all in favor, aye. Suppose, all those opposed, no, the ayes have it.
Isn't that how we do it at town meeting?
Why don't we,
That's
why
what we'd
don't
like to
we,
do.
why don't we go, Rick, if you're
You have
good
to
with,
do a roll call.
why don't we do the roll call vote just
Yeah,
for
You have to.
posterity? So, and I'll just call out names again. Christine Merzigliano,
Aye.
Jim Saban,
Aye.
Tom Barron,
Aye.
Bob Lawton,
Aye.
Paul Dagnan. Is that right? Rick Bishop,
Aye.
Brian Gardner.
Aye.
Okay. So I believe that's 7-1, 7-0. So congratulations, Rick.
Thank you, Karen.
Are you doing a vice chair?
You'll
Oh,
get
that's-
letterhead and everything.
Kathy's pushing our luck. It's a nomination for vice chairman.
Jim Saban, I nominate.
You know, I'll be glad to do that. It's not heavy. I don't think
Yeah.
between what we're gonna get from Kyle and with Rick's leadership and this committee, I don't think it's gonna be a lot of heavy work, so.
I second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So roll call vote, Christine,
Aye.
Jim Saban,
Aye.
Tom Barron,
Aye.
Bob Lawton,
Aye.
Paul Degnan, Rick Bishop,
Aye.
and Brian Gardner.
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations. All right, I'll turn over the meeting to you, Mr. Bishop.
Well, unfortunately, Mrs. Green, I never received the,
Oh, okay.
I'm a little at a disadvantage here today.
I just got mine too.
So the
Geez,
next
I gotta
item,
look into this email problem. I'm sorry about that, everybody.
When you're
It may
smaller
have been
than
the
one-
size of the
Well-
file. It did take a while,
so
just now.
Kyle, can you just throw up the agenda, please?
Yep.
Just so you know, I asked Kyle to print everything out and I picked it up at town hall.
The old fashioned
Oh.
way.
Which
Yeah,
I'm happy
thank
to
you,
see.
Cheated. Hmm.
I didn't know you could do that anymore.
I know.
We still have paper here. So
Wow.
done introductions, you've established committee officers. We've given you some update from staff on the land disposition
Mm.
process. So the next item is review of the requests that were in the packet, Rick.
Yes, okay, thank you. So the first property we have to review today is
Oh.
Mill Pond Road. It's up just behind the location of the former Mill Hill Club, which
Oh.
some of us probably remember. And
Mhm.
I don't remember.
Uh,
ever seeing that.
directly adjacent.
Yeah, if you remember, you're never there, right? Yeah.
Is the satellite map shows the property is directly adjacent to a larger home, and I'm guessing that the interested party is the owner of that larger home. Is that true, Kyle?
I believe the interested parties are on either side of it.
Okay.
Oh.
So the house to the right with the T shape,
Mhm.
that house
Yes.
was recently sold in deplorable condition. So probably the new owners are probably looking to, that's probably
Hmm.
why kind of interested in. getting-
I think they both indicated on their request form that they were more or less interested in kind of just expanding it to beautify the property, kind of to use it as a landscaping area. You know, they were both kind of looking just to use it as a landscaping area, is what they indicated.
The town owns.
Kyle, I thought one of them wanted to increase their acreage so that they could add on to their existing property.
Correct.
I think that's the next property.
Yeah, that's one of. Oh, is
No,
it?
it's this one as well.
Is it this one as well, Kathy?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
So
Sorry,
Kyle,
you're correct then.
Kyle, do we have the assessor's map itself? So map 4559, map and parcel? When we look at the actual physical map, it shows the site. It's satellite view, but not the assessor's map.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have.
I'm just kind of curious as to the configuration of this lot as to, you know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
This perfectly illustrates what I was saying, that we have a piece of property that is designated as unbuildable, but when you parcel it out between this larger home, it becomes an opportunity to either expand their home
Right.
or just change the dynamic of it. So the value, in my opinion, then is affected.
So can I, again, raise, I'm sorry, I don't want to take over this whole meeting, but my question becomes one of, okay, let's say we look at this piece of property and say, yeah, let's get rid of it. It's no value to the town. What's the next step in this process?
The next step is, and I should have given more of an overview. So kind of the first step is when they come in, we look at it from a staff level, and we see if it would even kind of be feasible from our perspective. And if so, what kind of conditions would have to be placed on it. If staff kind of thinks that it would be feasible, it progresses to you guys to this step. You review, you'd have to give your blessing and say you think it can be disposed of with whatever conditions. And then it goes to the Board of Selectmen for their ultimate final approval. And then as Karen indicated, these are tax taking properties. So that's just the process for tax takings. Obviously there'd be a town meeting vote. It'd be more intricate process for non-tax taking properties.
So Kyle, the elephant in the room here is who establishes value? Because in my opinion, this is worth a lot more than the assessed value because we have an opportunity for one of the abutters to expand their property.
Yeah, and I believe it kind of goes through, and this is the part that we haven't fully fleshed out, but it's more or less an auction process. And we just kind of set a minimum value. And then, you know, what the town receives for bids is what we receive.
I think we could set a minimum.
Yeah, to Mr. Bishop's point, yes, we can set a minimum based on what we feel the property is worth.
And that could include an appraisal, Rick,
Okay.
if necessary.
My comment was then going to be based on what, how,
Right.
what's going to be the framework for this?
Yeah. We will need to work with administration on, should we find ourselves needing many appraisals? We'll need to work with administration to identify the funding for that.
Great, thank you.
And
Okay.
Rick, in this particular property, there are different types of value as we all, and there's value to an abutter, and that's what the value to this is. If there's no value to an individual in the open marketplace, you or I wouldn't want to buy it because what else could we do with it? But the value is to the abutter in this particular type of, and maybe with two people interested, then the only way to liquidate it, if we would be through auction and let either of them be the higher bidder.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, thank you, Jim.
Rick, Christine has her hand up.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm all for selling the sliver to the west of 51, but to the east, that open lot shown on the assessor's maps is a continuation of Race Road. I assume originally because they wanted to have access to the back properties, which never came about. I'm just wondering, that would be of a lot more value to that little house than the sliver to the left. And I'm wondering, how do you undo a roadway and get that offered up for sale? Because that would certainly be of interest to that new owner.
You'd have to abandon the roadway,
Right.
and that's a whole legal process and would have to go through town meeting. We did abandon a section of Mill Pond Road where it hit Route 28 as part of the Maplewood at Mayflower Place. We got some of that and they got some of that. So it kind of was a mutual
Right.
benefit.
Right, well, this is
Yeah, we'll
different.
do
It's being used by that property, you know, it's just an open lot there. And it certainly should be for sale.
Christine, can you, I'm only seeing
I don't know
the,
what
the satellite view, so.
what are you looking on?
Yeah, the empty property to the right of 51.
So I don't know what's
Maybe-
on 51.
See that empty
there.
lot?
Yeah, right there?
That's on the, that's right. That's on the assessor's map as a road.
It's part of the right of way.
End there? Does it end there?
Really?
No, it goes all the way along that entire
Yeah, it
east
doesn't
side
go
of
anywhere.
51.
It
And where's
doesn't
it
go
stop?
anywhere.
Exactly the way Kyle's showing you there.
So if there's a road there, a paper road,
Hmm,
then that may provide adequate frontage for that big piece in the back.
Mm.
So, you know,
yeah, we don't own it. We can't do anything.
Yeah,
with
the
it.
back pieces all have driveways off of Town Brook Road, so it's not needed as a roadway.
yeah, but we don't own, we don't control the road.
Right.
It's a paper road that goes to, probably services that parcel behind
It could.
the T there. And again, not having the assessor's map to look at
Exactly.
the lines.
So can I make a suggestion? Kyle, if you could just do a little more research in
Hmm.
that for us, I'd like to
Show
keep
it.
us moving on this property we're looking at right now, if you don't mind.
It's not gonna show up well.
Mr. Chair, can I ask, so other than, I'm hearing we need the assessor's map, maybe some of these aerials, we need to show the lot lines, I think, you know, from the
Mhm.
assessor's map on top. Is there other information here that anybody sees
Well,
necessary?
Not on this particular one, but some in the future, we may want to know flood zone.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I can speak to that in the next one, Jim.
if it's a road, don't we know what we need to know? How the road was created? Was it part of a subdivision plan? Did the town have anything to do with it? That would make a difference on how it's disposed of.
Right.
Absolutely.
So-
The assessor's map shows it as a town road.
Okay.
And then again, it becomes, you know, just because it's a road, does the site have adequate frontage and
Right.
site size and sector that
Yeah.
to meet
Hmm.
zoning bylaws for the area? Most of the town is 40,000 square feet. The Bass River area is, I think, 60,000, and south of 28 is 25,000 square feet. But, you know, those will also dictate the
I
use of
don't
the
think I can pull that up in Vision on my laptop.
Yeah, and I don't think we need that right now. I think,
No.
let's answer these requests that have been in place for a year. And then we can get back to this other one another point. Again, we haven't had a request for information in that piece of property. It's something that perhaps
Mhm.
some of the meeting will take care of for us. So
What's next?
Aaron, you can help me with this a little bit. Would it be appropriate to call for a vote for our willingness as a committee to sell this piece of property as an auction piece?
I would so make a motion to suggest to the Board of Selectmen that this piece of property be liquidated.
The
Wait
second,
here a second.
I'd second that, but with the caveat that we look into that paper street with the idea that the parcel to the right, the one we're talking about, yes, that the T building. If that parcel has an option of taking over the paper street, its bid on in auction would be enhanced, or it would be modified. One way or another, it gives them another area of decision. So I would agree that the initial request, which is nothing more than a strip of land, be made available for sale, but I would caveat that we need a little more information on that paper street.
I agree with that, Tom. That's good.
Yep.
So again, the motion is to send this particular property to selectmen for disposition. Tom Barron has seconded that. Do I hear a vote? Karen, can you do that vote for me?
you bet. I'm gonna call on Christine.
Aye.
Jim Saban,
Aye.
Tom Barron,
Aye.
Bob Lawton,
Aye.
Paul Dignan. Okay. And Brian Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you.
I think we need, because we're being recorded here, I think we need full sound votes. So Paul, I think you need to unmute your mic.
Thank you, Brian.
Did Rick?
You didn't call me, Karen.
Yeah,
Oh, I
hear
didn't
Rick.
call. Okay, so let me call Paul. Paul Dignan, could you please unmute yourself? We can't hear you. Usually on the bottom left.
I was out of the screen. You got a aye vote for me. I had
Thank
unmuted.
you. And Mr. Rick Bishop.
Aye.
So that's 7-2, that's a 7-0 vote.
Could I ask some,
Disposition.
could I
Thank you,
just ask
Kathy.
a few quick questions? Were there any conditions you wanted to put on the liquidation of it? I mean, I know there's some large diameter trees there. Were you looking to keep those, or they could do it for anything that they wanted? And did you want to set any type of minimum value of saying, you know, it can be disposed of, but at a minimum of 4,000? Or did you want to go RFP recommendation to the Board of Selectmen or auction recommendation to the Board of Selectmen?
Great points. And I think we spoke about auction. I very definitely would like to see a minimum on that bid.
Can I jump in for 1 second too in this conversation? And Ed, I'm hoping Ed can jog my memory, because the other thing to remember is that an auction may come with a price tag to execute the auction. So Ed, can you speak to that point? Is there a a critical mass?
Yeah, what we would do in the first couple of auctions, similar to what we did with the tax title auctions, is we'd have our tax title attorney, Jim Capola, attend and be the auctioneer. And then if the price tags are low, then what we would probably just do is do it in-house. If we have a parcel where the price tag is fairly high, then we would probably use a professional auctioneer. So, for the first three, I think we're probably looking at just doing it in-house with our attorney's help. And we can add conditions and we can add minimums to both the auction or the RFP process.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ed.
One thing, Mr. Chairman, is I don't know if the committee wanted to hear from the requester of the owner of 51 Mill Pond there. They're actually in the audience if you wanted to.
I have no problem with that. Anyone else have a problem with that? I'm curious to hear their comments.
That's fine. Good. Yes, he'd like to buy.
Is the parcel, that the T-shaped building, is that 51?
Yeah, I believe so.
They're the new owners.
Hi, everyone. My name's Imelda and my husband's in the audience too. We're the Solomonis. We just purchased 51 Mill Pond Road just this past summer. And we noticed that was the parcel that was very close to our living room and kitchen. And we saw that it was up for purchase on the town website. So we figured, given the the relatively average size lot and the proximity of it, then we heard from our neighbor that she, is also interested in. So I don't know if that's taken into consideration, the proximity of her boundaries to the proximity of our living room and kitchen. We were planning of renovating the house and keeping it as as our home. So I wasn't sure if it was worth mentioning that fact, but I'll let you take that into consideration. So
Thank you very much.
thank you. And if you need any more information, I'll be more than happy to provide it for you guys. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments from committee members?
Mr. Bishop, I would just add to remind the individuals and anybody else who's listening that we don't get to pick who can buy the property. It's a process that they have to go through. So even if it's more beneficial to one party or the other, that's nothing that we can actually do. It's gonna have to be.
Right. Our role is to purely make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen.
Yep.
That's it.
Great, thank you. Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the question of setting minimums, I think the fact that finance will determine the master list of properties, whatever we see, whatever that list determines and provides for values, we should take that as a starting point for the discussion of minimums. So as a policy matter for the committee, I think that's what we should consider for the future. There may be other means of determining what minimums would be offered in a auction, but at least as a starting point, an administrative starting point, the list would be a worthy start.
Tom, would you care to make a motion to that end?
So moved.
We have a second?
What was the motion? I'm sorry, I missed that.
That the list from finance for the different properties, town-owned properties, would be considered the minimum for the administrative minimum for the right.
So I think, Tom, it maybe the assessed value should serve as the,
As the administrative minimum for the committee, and leading up to the foreclosure, to the
Auction. Yep.
auction process, yes.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second, please? Have a second? Any further discussion? Then if we don't have a second, we should,
I have a question concerning that, Mr. Chairman. So wouldn't we want someone outside, some sort of an appraiser, to give us an idea of what that value is? The assessed value on one of those is, a couple $1,000, $2,000. Maybe it's worth 10 grand.
I completely agree.
I'm not a real estate
Yeah,
expert. We do have some on the committee that are, but I'm not comfortable setting a value based on assessed values, because we know that in the town, property values are never set at assessed value, thankfully.
I would totally agree with you, Brian. But as I said, as a starting point, an administrative number is at least a beginning point, and it's not whatever determines what those minimums are may be part of other steps that need to be taken. But I agree with your comment, but I think we need to have at least an initial starting point.
Mr. Chairman, can I weigh in on this?
Yes, please, Jim. You're our expert in this field.
So first, I want to caution that there are vast differences between assessed value of a piece of property and market value of a piece of property. So when we sometimes use assessed value, a lot of these undeveloped parcels, they're using strictly $1 per square foot number, and that's how they're arriving at that $2,000 or the $4,000. And we could have the assessors come in and give us a little, how they do it if of value to the committee. But I think each property has a case-by-case basis, and rather than trying to set any established, minimum, the market is going to dictate that minimum to a degree as well, because any property we're going to dispose of is going to have to be exposed to everybody. We just can't sell it to one individual without it being exposed to the entire market. So if we're offering it to somebody for $3,000 and it's worth more, then somebody may buy it for that more. And then
Well, that's the minimum. It wouldn't be what you could buy
no, what
it
I'm
for.
saying is, if we set that minimum and if it's worth $6,000 to the guy next door, well, he's not going to pay the $3,000. He's going to bump the guy who bid the $3,000 because he wants. We're talking about, in this particular case, the property is of interest to two property owners, two
How much does it cost for an appraisal, Jim?
I'm very expensive.
I'm just curious, like
Well,
if there's very small value
It
properties,
depends.
right?
Yeah, so appraisals set their fees based upon the complexity of the assignment, how difficult it is to do the job. You know, a single-family home in Captain's Village is pretty simple. You know, a 700 square foot house on a 10,000 acre lot on the ocean front, really difficult. So, you know, that's kind of how they do it. It's the complexity of the assignment.
What about these kind
question.
of parcels, Jim? Would these be on the more complex end since they're?
Now, this type of property is more the simpler, and I would suggest that the fees are probably under $1,500.
Couldn't we get an opinion of value, which is
Absolutely.
different than an appraisal?
Yep.
That would give us at least a starting point. It's better than our assessment, but an opinion of value, at least that starts the process, and then we look at it and see, okay, we think that's reasonable, et cetera, et cetera. Then it gives that third party that Brian talked about, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's
But-
good, Bob.
What's the technical difference between an opinion of value and an appraisal, Jim?
Well, both of them are an opinion of value.
Well,
Really the trick is to the detail of how much information you really.
Right.
um,
Yep.
Like some attorneys like to charge by the pound of, you know, some appraisers like to charge by the pound of paper. A lot of it is just minutia, but
Right.
I get what Bob's trying to say is we can do a, you know, what do they say, down and dirty, simple, have an appraiser just give us a number without, you know, all the fluff and
Yeah.
information to be able to establish something. They don't need
Right.
all that stuff. With the bigger parcels, when we're looking at 10 acres and
different.
stuff, then absolutely different
Yep.
animal altogether.
Yeah.
These little pieces that are, you know, slivers where we cut off the corner of a lot to
Mm,
get road frontage and stuff, those are stuff that's just, you know, fluffed as far as I'm concerned. And
Right.
it's valued to the abutting neighbors than anybody else. And that's the stuff we just clean up the.
Okay.
So the conclusion is, we will learn as we go, I think is a fair statement that the first steps are probably, in my opinion, we will, for these small properties that we have in front of us right now, opinion of value, and make that
Right.
as part of our submission to the Board of Selectmen. Does that make sense?
It does.
I withdraw that motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
hate to be the fly in the ointment, but those opinions of value cost money, and I'm not sure we have a budget to be
Right.
able
Don't
to spend. So
Right.
as much as I'd love to be able to have us do them, somebody's got to give us the authority to spend money.
I think that we'll have to, one suggestion would be for us to get some quotes to figure out what exactly are we talking about here. And, you know, I'm wondering, I'm sure it would be cheaper. I don't know, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. If we were asking an opinion of value on 5 properties versus 1 property, the per property should
Each
be
one is
lower.
separate.
No?
No,
Right.
because
Okay,
No, right.
every property is
one's
like
separate.
a painting or a
Yeah.
Picasso. Everything's different. You know,
okay.
your view is different.
Good,
the frontage is
No,
different.
no buy in bulk discount, I guess.
Yeah, no bulk discounts, huh?
No, sometimes you
same
can,
thing.
like if there are 2 lots right next door to each other that are identical, yeah, but, you know, if we were to look at all these properties, all of them have different, you know, features and amenities and factors that have to be considered. You know, I would suggest that, you know, with these types of properties that are $3,000 and $5,000, let's be realistic. If we're gonna spend $1,000 to have an appraiser tell us that what
We
it's
don't
worth,
know.
you know,
Mhm.
and it's gonna cost, and we're only gonna sell it for 5,000, well, why would we spend 1,000?
Also, just to note on our request form, we do have a box as to whether or not the requester is willing to pay for an appraisal. Most of them indicated that they were. I don't know how that would all play out, but just something else to note.
And that's certainly something you can do as well. I mean, the fact that they pay for it doesn't necessarily
Right.
control anything except for who
Right.
writes the check.
Right.
That's a good thing. If they will pay for it, more than,
Mm-hmm.
Can we make that one of the conditions of the process, that the applicant or the customer that's interested in purchasing this in the town needs to pay for it?
I'm not sure we'd want to do that, Rick, because some cases we want our own independent, like, again, going back to those 10, 15 acre
Right.
parcels. We want to have our own guy take a look at it. And then simply, if somebody says, hey, your appraiser says it's worth X, I don't agree with it. Our answer to them was, well, get your own appraiser.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Which we've done in the past. Yep. Ed, on a tax title, aren't there funds in the tax title account to be able to do these types of things as we prepare to sell those types of properties?
There are not. We have funds that allow us to work with an attorney
Right.
on tax titles. Those obviously cut down seriously over the years. What we could do is set aside free cash as a result of the amount of tax title properties that we've redeemed in a year and its resultant positive impact on free cash. So that's an option going forward once we actually have this process in place and we are generating some money.
I would raise the point that Jim is right. The different properties, if you're going to have an appraiser and the cost of that appraiser may be almost half of the value of the property. Well, the bottom line, what we're trying to do here with disposing of property is to put value back on the tax rolls. So even if we have to spend a little to get a little, that should be our objective.
I don't necessarily disagree.
It also generates.
I'm sorry.
It also generates new growth in addition to the taxes that are generated each year.
With regards to this property that we're talking about on Mill Pond, I think simply, sale to the highest bidder is going to get you the same result, whether you spend $1,000 or not. So, this is kind of, to me, and just my opinion, this is a no-brainer, kind of simple, put it out there. The two owners on either side of it want it, let them bid it out, or maybe come to an agreement and share the expense and let them figure it out. But it's of no use to us to go getting an appraisal, in my opinion.
So,
Chairman,
yes,
Okay.
Ed, right.
So I think Jim's correct in that, can we set a limit? I mean, there's no one's going to step in randomly at an auction to buy this property that's not the abutter. I mean, why would you do that?
Right.
But a 10-acre parcel is a different story. So can we
Totally
have
different.
separate rules for separate size? Something that we recognize has no importance to anybody but the parties involved. We don't have to worry about getting appraisals because, like Jim said, if they come in at $4,000, they come in at $4,000, it's $5,000. In this instance, that family wants to add on to their house, which is going to raise their assessed value, which brings more revenue to the town in the first place.
No, I think it's a very good point. I agree.
So maybe we need separate procedures for anything under a certain square footage of acreage.
Yeah, and it could be that simple. Anything above X. Or there's another series of analysis, if you will. So
for this
we-
property, does the assessed value make sense for the minimum? Or
Does to me.
I thought so. It's just
Done. Okay. Let's go.
all right. So concluded, we propose as we have a motion that we're going to send this property to the Board of Selectmen at the assessed value.
Recommend to dispose, not recommend assessed value, but because they'll do it through a bid process anyway.
Yeah.
by auction?
That's right.
I got it. I'll get that in a memo to the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you.
Rick, the motion that I had seconded talked about that paper street.
With the caveat that we investigate the paper street
Right.
as well.
Yeah, before we send the whole package to the selectmen.
Yep, okay.
Can I just make a point? That's going to take a long time to research that. We may need to get town council involved because it's the fee in the road and who owns it, and disposition of it would be through town meeting. I think this property is ready to go. And if these people are interested in purchasing it, let's just move it along.
Kathy, I totally agree. And that's kind of what we said before.
Yep.
The motion was to move this property along, that we would look at the
Right.
paper road and that
Second.
other parcels individually.
If the paper road doesn't touch this parcel, then it's
Right, yeah,
irrelevant.
Exactly.
right. It doesn't, right. It's a separate issue. I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay.
Done. Hey, we got one done in an hour and a half. That's not bad.
So could we move on to the next property?
Well,
Yeah.
we hope so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so the next property, this was a request from the property owner, the abutting property owner. I think they listed it at 19 Hope Road. It's actually 0 Oak Bluffs Road. So this property owner is looking
Oh.
to use it to add on to their property, which it says in their description. I can go in more depth in that if you'd like. This is the property in question, a picture of it. So it's kind of similar to the last parcel in that it probably only has value to the abutting neighbor. It was assessed at $9,700.
I can tell you that that property is in a flood zone. However, that the Conservation Commission has had a number of requests in that overall neighborhood in the recent last probably 12 months, and we have approved the majority of them with different conditions. So I do not believe it negatively affects the value.
It's 0.07 acres. That's where it is on the map. And we did have some comments from town staff. Basically, the gist of them is that the DPW reviewed the request, and in order for them to kind of sign off on it, they would request that there be a permanent drainage easement to go along with the disposition. This might be something that Kathy might be able to speak to better than I can.
If you keep going down, Kyle, to the next
Yep.
picture. Yeah. I spoke with the homeowner, and this is a case, yeah, keep going down to the
Okay,
next
yep.
picture. Yeah, sorry. Where I think they recently inherited this property with a death in the family, and that they were interested in raising and replacing the house that's there now. And they did understand that they were in a flood zone. So they wanted the area to potentially help them with regard to side yard setbacks and that type of thing, because they wanted to add a garage. Right now, I think it's a relatively small ranch. I don't think they wanted to go that much bigger, but they did want to have some type of garage. I guess the woman's husband is a mechanic. So you can see that it's at parcel 3 there in the Taylor homes, and DPW was looking for something right there on the corner, a 35 by 30 easement. That would need to have some conditions on it, that it can't have any permanent structures over it. It needs to be left as grass with no irrigation and or left in its natural condition. So if in the future, the DPW, there's also some existing drainage in that area, if they needed to repair it or fix it or add on to it, this would allow them to have an easement in order to do that. Other than that, there really wasn't any town staff that was overly interested in it other than drainage. The groundwater table is relatively high in that area, so it may need to be some type of surface infiltration and or for treatment. So we relayed that to the property owner at 19 Hope Street, and she indicated that she needed to think about it a little bit longer to see if those conditions were acceptable to her before she made a final determination. But I think Kyle wanted to put it on here because we were having a meeting and get your input on how you would feel about disposition of that small parcel with that drainage easement.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Any comments?
I believe you have to keep the easement.
Yes.
It's foolish to sell property and then later on you have to try to take an easement. If we own it, we keep it. So, with that caveat would be, I think, something I'd be looking at.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we.
The rec-
Oh, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
This is Ed Centio, Finance Director. I just wanted to add that we're recommending an easement for all properties, utility easement, drainage easements, anything that we want, so that in case in the future we want to do something with those parcels, we still have the right, depending on the size. Now, I'm thinking about these little parcels. And the fact that somebody puts irrigation or puts a fence up, that doesn't prevent doing anything with, the drainage easement if we ever do it later on down the road.
Well,
As long as we have the easement, we can do what with the property.
What type of utility easements would you be talking about besides the
Right.
drainage easement, Ed?
So I'm thinking, do we need to if we were to put in a wastewater line, do we have the right to do the wastewater line somewhere through there? Do we have the right to do any type of if we do any broadband, that's town-sponsored broadband, can we do something with a pole or a line or an underground line? Those types of things, just looking in the future.
Do you want to expand it beyond drainage in that 35 to 30 to be all utilities? Or the whole parcel?
I'm thinking that we would do that routinely, not on like you said, a 10-acre parcel, because that's different, but on any parcel that might be near the road. Why not put a utility easement?
I don't think she'd probably be interested in that.
It's almost like, Ed, I
Okay.
think that when we spoke about it first, it was kind of I thought a good suggestion to have a blanket set of easements to protect his interests, but kind of after listening to this conversation, I wonder if we should just stay with a case-by-case basis.
Easements should be.
And that's fine.
Easements should be on a case-by-case basis, as needed.
I would,
I
Yeah,
do
as
know-
long as you can predict the use.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
think that Christine, I'm sorry, and Christine Marzigliano had her hand up for a while.
how do you get to do that?
Well, I just saw her hand,
Yes, I was,
like the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I saw your hand, Jim.
Taking care of this piece of property. I mean, there's a pine tree that died and it's laying on its side. You know, I think anything that we could do to sell it to the adjacent owners would be an improvement to the neighborhood, but with the caveat of having that corner easement.
yeah, that's a pretty specific request that I agree with whoever said it. Karen said it. I really believe we should be looking at these properties on a case-by-case basis.
Yep.
To make a blanket statement locks us in good and bad. So I just,
Mm.
Jim Saban, you had your hand up?
Two things. Just keep in mind that any easements or restrictions that we put on a property have an effect on value.
Mhm.
So if we were to, carte blanche say every property is going to have an easement,
Mm.
well, keep in mind that easement is going to affect the value of each of those.
Right.
So I agree that we should do this on a case-by-case
Mhm.
basis. I would make a motion that we offer to sell this with the restrictions that have been presented by the DPW. And if they're interested in buying it with those restrictions, great. If not, then it's still.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Tom,
Aaron?
a second.
Okay, great,
Oh.
thank you.
So
Karen,
is this,
call
is
the
this,
roll, please.
I'm sorry, is this also auction and minimum by assessed value? Or do you not? I'm just wondering whether we want to expand on the motion to say that you want to dispose of it by auction with a minimum value equaling the assessed value or not. It's up to you guys. I just want to know.
I probably incorrectly assumed there would be a second discussion about how we
Okay, sorry.
value it.
I'm sorry.
And I feel like some of that's going to get incorporated into the form, Kathy. I think we should do that, like have a, for office use only part of the form. And we can record these types of things kind of easily. But yeah, so that was a motion by Jim Saban and a second by Tom Barron to recommend disposition of this parcel to the selectmen with the condition that the easements sought Department of Public Works would be included. So I can do a roll call vote for you, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
So I'd call Christine Marzigliano,
Aye.
Jim Saban,
Aye.
Tom Barron,
Aye.
Bob Lawton,
Aye.
Rick Bishop,
Aye.
Brian Gardner,
Aye.
and Paul Dignan.
Aye.
And that's
Okay, thank you,
0. You're welcome.
And the point that Kathy Williams brought up is because this is a similar property to what we just approved in the Mill Hill area, would the committee be comfortable going with the same formula that we presented before? That we would start with the assessed value and propose an auction.
Mr. Chairman, can I, I've been thinking about this minimum bid of assessed value, and in this particular case, the only person that's interested in buying it is the neighbor, correct?
far as we know, yes.
Say to them, listen, we only want to sell it to you for the assessed value. Well, we might be cutting our nose in spite of our face because she may be willing to pay us, $1,000 less. But I don't want to say no just because she hasn't come to the assessed value, or anybody.
Hmm.
Is there somebody in town that would negotiate these purchases, or how would? So
But
in
she's
other words, in
already-
this case,
she's already said that she wants to put an addition on her home. So there's some implied interest in value there. But you're right. I don't know who would make that call on coming up with a final number. I'm not sure, Bob, you can help with that or not, that thinking.
Because I'm doing the one on Higgins Kroll, just looking at that. That's just a purchase rather than a sale. Ed, is this parcel another tax taking?
Correct.
Yes.
It doesn't show on the, oh, it is, okay.
They're all tax taking, and
All
none of
three.
them would be a sale. They all have to be auction or RFP.
No, okay.
Answers that.
So we know that. So
there
the
is
question,
no
so then the
negotiation
question
per
is there a
se.
minimum that you place on it? And as, there may be with the easement, it may be a different number.
How much in arrears in taxes is the
Oh.
property?
Good point.
maybe that's part of it.
These parcels may have been in the town's possession for 20 or 30 years. So once we take these properties, there is no more continued assessment
Right.
for these. So unlike a tax title auction,
Right.
where the owners still own the property, you
Right.
don't have to recover the prior taxes and fees and interest. Just getting these back on the tax rolls and getting the new growth is great. And getting some amount of money that we could potentially, apply to wastewater. We're trying to come up with a policy on all of our wastewater funding, and this might be one of the elements if the selectmen agree.
Okay, thank you. So, we've approved sending this to selectmen. We are still a little unsure about how we're going to value these, it seems to me. And the assessed value is the one constant, if you will. We may not like it, but at least it's a defendable position.
So are these absolute auctions?
Oh, good point.
Ed,
Do you know that answer?
What's your term of an absolute auction?
So you
What
put
are
it
you
up for
referring to?
auction, and I'm the guy who wants to buy it. I'm only going to offer you $10. Do you have to take it?
That's why we're talking about minimums.
right.
Yes,
have
if
to
you don't
minimum,
apply a
then yes.
minimum, then yes.
And yes, yeah. That's true.
So in that case, you need to have a minimum bid.
So it's an absolute auction, but we can include a minimum to set some guarantee.
So we could apply something like administrative costs plus 10% or whatever percent, and make sure we cover all of our administrative costs as we're looking at it.
Do whatever you want.
It's, I mean,
Right, closing costs,
yeah, the cost of,
everything.
Yeah,
because there is cost of doing business here, and if we're gonna sell it, and they say,
It shouldn't cost us anything.
we have to.
Right.
it's a great point. All right, so
And those can all be part of the conditions.
Okay.
is there someone who'd like to make a
That the
motion?
owner, the purchase, pay for.
Ed, you're breaking up.
What?
Ed, you're breaking up.
I can't hear you.
That, please.
I'm sorry. I just said that paying for the closing costs can also be part of the conditions.
Yeah.
I think the more complicated you make it to someone who doesn't know anything about closing costs, the more difficult you're going to make it. Here on the assessed value might make some sense because there is going to be a deduction in the value associated with the drainage easement because it is limiting what they can do on that corner. So maybe that's the compensation here, and the assessed value really isn't that far off.
In this,
Yeah, I
Or
agree
set a
with-
flat rate or something. Don't just
Right.
like, oh, you have to cover it, because then people don't know what that means.
So it seems to me that it's very straightforward if we agree to the assessed value plus a percentage, that people understand that right away. And it's just easy to communicate and it protects us.
Okay, so let me apply something here. Let me ask each of you, if this was your property, would you pay $9,000 to have that little extra piece of land? Is it worth $9,000 to you? I don't know.
Don't know.
And
Right.
as the owner, I might say, you know what, I'll give you 5, but I can live without it. And maybe they can.
But I'm not able to get the addition to my home and the improvement in my quality of
Yeah,
life.
so make up your mind. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you suggesting that it might be worth $5,000 to the town because we're also getting it back on the rolls and
Well,
growth and all the rest of those arguments?
Well, again, I'm not suggesting value at all. I'm simply saying that if we're setting a minimum, I don't want us to lose a sale because we're saying 9,000 and I'm just saying any property. And we're saying the assessed value is X, but the person who wants to buy it is 10% less than X or whatever, X minus something. Well, now we have no sale versus sale of something.
and then when we see that, we go back out again
Right.
and lower the minimum. I mean, it's not, you see what the market will bear. If the market won't bear the 9,000, they say, well, but I would have offered you 7. Okay, well, we'll consider that. We may go out again in another month and do this again.
But
As long as
I thought Ed said we can't reject the offer.
if you have a minimum of 9,000, they only offer 7. Yes, you can reject it.
Okay.
That was the key, Jim, that you brought up, and that makes more sense to me.
Got it.
So why don't we just do the assessed value, see what the market will bear. If it won't bear the 9,007, then we'll do something else at a subsequent auction.
Yeah, and we're going to include the 10% for administrative costs.
I wouldn't, it's part of the cost of doing business.
Okay.
It's a trade-off between
Yeah, just
getting
leave
rid of
it.
the property, but then it's gonna come on the tax rolls, like Karen said,
Yeah.
You
Okay.
might have a cost involved in getting rid of the property, but from now in the future, it's gonna be a taxable piece of property.
All right, so Bob, would
Okay.
you make that motion, please, so we can close this one out?
The motion would be to place the assessed value as the minimum acceptable amount for a sale.
I'll
Wait a
second
second.
that.
Christine, seconds. Karen, would you please make the roll call?
Yeah. Christine Marzigliano,
Aye.
Jim Saban,
Aye.
Tom Barron,
I,
Bob Lawton,
Aye.
Rick Bishop,
Aye.
Paul Dignan,
Aye.
and Brian Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. 7-0.
Okay.
So
Last.
I'll move on to the last property today. This property adjacent to 964 Route 6A.
Yeah, so this one's got a bit of a intricate history to it, if you will. I'm going to have to defer to Kathy to explain it in more detail. But essentially, this gentleman just purchased the property at 964 Route 6A. And in doing some research, realized that there's 2 lots C10 and C11, that the town of Yarmouth originally took as in tax taking, but for whatever reason, it wasn't included as a part of this parcel or lot. So he's basically just looking to combine it, kind of as it probably always should have been. So, I mean, that's why the assessment card, this is just, we don't have an assessment card because there's no like parcel for these 2 lots. Kathy, I don't know if you want to take over because I can't really explain it.
If you go down to the registry map, Kyle, that's kind of, yeah. You can see that right now the dark line is what he owns. It used to be that the parcel to the rear and to the parcel to the south of that, that you see the long strip and then the little rectangle in the back. That used to be part of that property. I think there was some weird thing where he wasn't paying his taxes, but it wasn't enough to take the whole property. So they carved off these strange pieces,
Really?
which was very, very bizarre. If you look at the town assessor's map today, it shows him, the parcel being the whole thing. But the reality is the old assessor's map had that C9, C10, and C11. So I had spoken to this gentleman some time ago, and it was causing some type of really strange title issue with the property. I think he kind of bought it hoping he could fix it. Because I think other sales had fallen through because
On my time. Yeah.
someone wasn't willing to take on that. So he also owns, if you, I think it's the next one, Kyle, if you go to the next plan. keep going for a little bit.
Yeah.
So you can see the parcel right there where the cursor is, but then he also owns that parcel 5 that's in the adjacent. So if you combine parcel 5 with the original parcel with those two other little pieces, he'd have a really nice property that I would think the assessed value would increase, and it would also make it fix up any of those title issues that seem to be outstanding on the property. So it used to be one piece. Let's bring it back together. My only condition, and this is, I don't know whether you wanted to talk about this on all the lots, is that they combine it through an 81X instead of having all these 3-4
Yes.
different parcels.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question, Kathy.
Yeah.
That's-
What would
That's all I
that,
got.
These are these dog.
Very
That-
interesting.
That's what I couldn't
A&R,
understand is
Bob.
how
Yeah.
would 2 lots be part of a 3rd lot if they have 2 different owners? So that was what I could not understand. Yeah.
The town took them.
Yeah.
So they now own, the little rectangle in the back of the long strip is owned by the town. I don't know how it all worked out.
Lot 3.
Well, this is the next subdivision to the north. I'm just showing you lot parcel 5 to let you know that that property owner also owns that piece. So that piece and then all the other 3 pieces together would make a really nice lot, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
Kathy, can I ask a point of
Where's the-
clarification? Just at the label on there was
I can't.
Desmond and Heffler. So those are the 2 that are owned by the town now.
no,
It was the 2 that are owned by the town now.
Or I'm
are
not sorry, I'm
Byrne
sorry, it's not
and
Desmond,
Heffler.
it's Byrne and Heffler.
Yes, correct.
That's my mistake.
is now Nash. Simone is now Nash, the current owner.
Right.
No,
That's
I
why
I misspoke. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to make clear how it all fit together.
He owns that.
Well, Kathy, since we have no value, could we ask the assessors to figure out based on the square footage what they would deem as an assessed value for those 2 parcels?
I think that makes some sense.
That's
So
a
I
good
think-
idea.
I
agree.
can give you a quick answer to some of this. If you want to know what we're going to increase the value on these for assessments, if you look at some of the abutting properties, and I don't have the, that's, I'm not at my office with joint screens, but if I did, I would look at what the town applied for a per square foot dollar value to those lots. And then simply look at the stuff that they were adding to this, to the Nash property. That's the dollar amount and value you're gonna add. 'Cause We're gonna say if it was $5 a square foot for everything else, and if these are, we'll apply $5 a square foot to these, and that's gonna add to the value of the existing piece. That's what the value increase would be on that lot. Is the per square foot value of the land. And again, I don't have it in front of me, the assessor's site, to be able to look at what they're charging per square foot. But that's, if you want to know what it's going to increase the value, that's about what it will do.
So Jim, what you're asking for is a full appraisal external to the to the current values that are shown for assessors.
So can you pull up his assessment, the property record card on Nash's house itself? So, all right, right there. So back up.
Back up.
Go back down.
Up to the site. So as you can see, if you look at the land value, the land was assessed at 126.5 in 2021. So if you take that 0.57 acres and figure that into square feet and divide that into the 126.5 for the land, that's the value of each square foot you're going to add to this lot by property.
I think the actual assessor's map, assessor's card here, it already includes the acreage in it of those, all those, the town-owned lots, I think are also included in it, because the piece that he owns is less than 0.57.
So the town is already taxing the guy for stuff he doesn't own?
I think so.
Very
right.
good.
Because the area, if you look at the, if we look at the registry, the area was only 11,419 square feet or 0.26 acres.
11,000, yeah, but they use the 0.57.
So you can easily, I think your point's well taken. I mean, what's the dollar value per, square foot around there, and just multiply it by the area here, and you'll get an idea what the value is. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Okay, hold on a minute, I'm gonna tell you something.
Well, if he's already paying for it, I guess we don't have to sell it to him. Kidding.
So the town right now is applying about $5.70 per square foot. Excuse me, $5.79 a square foot.
Question for Kathy. Kathy, that adjacent lot 5, is that already owned by the Mr. Nash?
It is.
And
Yep.
so what you're saying is that once this is approved, then there would be an A&R to combine those properties?
I don't think you'd have to do an A&R. He could just do an 81X.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just a point of clarification. Thank you.
And to be clear, we're really only selling that pork chop piece, if you will, or the L-shaped piece.
Correct.
That the
flag.
Brine and Heller, right?
Where?
Brine and Heffler.
Yeah.
Right.
The owner's names on that, Brine and Heffler.
Right, there you go.
Burn.
Byrne?
Yes, probably Burn. So
Oh, those two.
again, I think
I see.
as a committee, we can vote to agree to sell this and send it to selectmen, but we don't have a way of putting a value on it, I don't believe, unless I'm missing something.
But Jim, just,
I think Jim just explained it.
Yeah.
You can just, there's a cost per square foot associated with all of these lots around this property, and we can just apply it. I just don't know off the top of my head what the area is for
Right,
those
well, that's-
lots, but we can subtract,
just have
easy
the
enough.
assessors do it.
I didn't see any footage to that L shape to understand it.
But let me warn you that you can't use that number for this particular, that's what it would add in value to a part of the bigger piece. Separately by themselves, it's not $5.79 because it's not buildable land.
Right.
If you add it to that buildable land, land size is $5.70. So they're using $5.79 a square foot for what they classify as assessors classify as code 130, and that's buildable land. This is classified, this is classified as unbuildable land.
But it would become buildable once the transaction was complete, Jim, because then we've expanded the,
Legally.
Right. So it becomes part of the unbuildable, it becomes assembled with a buildable and then becomes buildable land.
right.
Yeah, I
Gotcha.
mean, it's
Part of the big-
13,416 square feet for that flag shape, and if it's $5.79, no one's ever going to pay that. It's over $77,000.
That's because you're taxing it as buildable and not what it actually is.
Right.
Once it becomes part of the buildable land, then you'll tax it at that.
This guy's been taxed already? Is that what we're?
Looks that way.
It looks that
How long-
way.
Seems like that.
So what is the town's liability there that's been collecting tax dollars for someone who has?
I think it's up to them to do some type of,
We
I
send a
think they
thank you
could
note.
seek an abatement, Brian.
right, to seek an abatement or a correction with the town.
No, right, yeah.
So,
The guy did a lot of research, and he happens to be, I think he was also an engineer, and he was used to doing this type of research, and he really dug in. I give him a lot of credit because I couldn't tell a lot of the stuff that he found out until you look at the older assessor map.
so here's a good lesson for all of us. When you get your tax bill, one of the things you want to do is look at your your property record card that the town has. I do this every year, even though it doesn't change sometimes. To make sure the town is assessing you correctly, you want to make sure they're not taxing you for stuff that you don't own. And apparently this guy's been taxed for stuff he didn't own.
Just happened to me, Jim, with Town of Dennis. They classified my house as a second home.
And the answer to that is that if you don't file an abatement in a timely manner, too
Right.
bad, so sad, catch me next time.
Yeah.
The state
Unfortunately, but
always wins. So, yeah, sadly, the guy's paid tax on it apparently for stuff you don't own.
He hasn't paid it. He just bought
somebody
it. so-
has.
Just bought it.
Right, somebody has.
Good, you know.
Can I make a recommendation that we dispose of this property with him and somehow figure out what to do as far as
Yep.
the tax abatement? Which isn't our job, that's his.
Well, he just bought it though, so I don't have any
Yeah.
inclination that we'll be abating him. I
No,
still believe we need to come up with a number that we
Right.
tie to this property that we would recommend to the selectmen.
This one, I would use the assessed value of the, well,
Yeah.
you don't have the assessed value of the parcel.
Christine did originally suggest that we kind of go and ask the assessing department for their recommended
Yeah.
value. I think we could certainly do that.
That means
Good
that's
idea.
logical. That's
yeah,
good.
take care of it.
Would you like us to go with that number or would you like us to come back to you?
Well,
I think it should come back to us,
Okay,
just so that we have
Let us know.
something to work with.
right.
yep.
You know, again, because we're brand new, it's going to be part of our
No.
learning process.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all a work in, I mean,
Good
this is
point.
real, so I said at the beginning, it's work in progress. We're figuring this out.
Mr. Chairman, I might recommend that we have the assessor attend one of our meetings to explain the different classification codes and how they're arrived and what some of their value features are.
I think that'd be good value to that, Jim. Yep, I agree. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Jim Saban,
Aye.
Tom Barron,
Aye.
Bob Lawton,
Aye.
Rick Bishop,
Aye.
Paul Dignan,
Aye.
and Brian Gardner.
Aye.
So unanimous, everybody would like to meet with the assessor at some point.
Yep.
And to be clear, we've agreed that we're going to wait until we get that number from assessors and make our disposition on the next meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Is there any other business we need to talk about this afternoon, Karen?
You know what I'd ask you guys is this a good time for a I'm not saying we need
No.
to meet every week, clearly, but is this a good time in general for we schedule the next meeting?
It will depend on whether or not there's a Affordable Housing Trust meeting shortly thereafter.
Right.
Yeah, there's one at 4, so we've got
Yep.
15 minutes for that.
You got 20 minutes off, Bob. What are you talking about?
Well, I was supposed to talk to Ed for an hour about the finances of the town, but I guess I'm not doing that either, so.
I'm just teasing you. I mean, we can, especially with Zoom, meetings are feasible, almost whenever. If you want us,
Mhm.
I mean, we can send out a poll too.
1, 2,
Saving likes doodle polls.
How frequently did you envision
Yeah.
meetings taking place, Karen?
I think that we do have another request. I think that maybe we could meet in a month's time.
Good.
I think we
yeah,
work
no more
with you
than-
on,
Really impressive that you held up there of all the properties. So we have some work to do.
yeah.
Right.
We have
Mm.
work to do. So I would say a month. I think that once we get through the backlog
Mm.
of requests, maybe, something like quarterly would be reasonable to aim for.
Perfect.
And
That's
I think we need to hit a stride. We're learning and seeing what pieces of information are
Mm.
you guys and what we need to help facilitate quick decision making.
Agreed.
So can you share
Well,
with us the one that you've got on the back burner so that we can start doing some homework in
It's
advance?
a good idea.
Sure, it's, I don't know, Kyle, if you have the, we had two different requests. We had a request come in from Attorney Andrew Singer in relation to the Seasons gas station development on Station Avenue, and he had a number of parcels that he had proposed.
Mm.
I think offsets for nitrogen, is that the right way to categorize it, Kath? And I think that we've gone through some of them. We're in process of scheduling a meeting with Mr. Singer to kind of just update on the application, make sure we're still talking about the same thing. But we have a request from him and another party for 10 acres that are over by DuPont. Old Paper Road, Old Townhouse,
Oh,
through there. It's a big,
The John Sears property.
it's the old John Sears property. And that was the one that was discussed at town meeting way back when that, I think is in part due to, this meeting happening right now.
And I can send around, I did have a list compiled of all the requests that we have.
That would be
That'd be
great.
good.
Certainly
Yeah.
send that
Mhm.
around. And I can also send around on the same list as our list of town-owned properties that we need to
Yep.
clean up. But I'll send that out to the committee.
Kyle,
Thank you very much.
And I just wanted, this is Ed Centio. I just wanted to add that the term that Karen was searching for was nitrogen credit swap. And what that means is that they would buy a piece of property, would do nothing to that piece of property. They couldn't develop it. They can't use it in any way. And that allows them to do the development that they want to do in the location that needs that nitrogen credit swap. So we get the purchase of a piece of property, we get the new growth from that property, and we get taxes every year, and nothing happens to that property. It's left in its current state.
And in my opinion, it's a cheap way for them to skirt the
Right.
zoning issues. So.
And
just-
somebody has to remember that 10, 15 years from now,
Well,
which
this
is
is
always
one-
the problem,
Yeah, and this is one
in
of
my
those
opinion.
that we clearly want to have an appraisal done.
Right.
Yeah, oh,
And so that parcel is clearly more complicated than the ones we talked about today.
mm,
And
That's,
just-
that was why we wanted to start with the smaller ones. So,
mm.
But keep in mind that for an
Welcome.
appraiser, it's going to take you a couple of months to get something done.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I do think, and, you know, I guess I'll put it on my list for the interim town administrator. We're gonna have to
Excuse me?
find some money.
Excuse me?
That's you, buddy.
We don't have any. I was told we don't have any money, so
We
it's
don't,
gonna
well,
make my job easy for the
and
next 4 months. Huh?
we're roping Ed into that conversation.
Remember that we can ask them to pay for the appraisal.
That's right.
And we
Well-
get to pick the appraiser?
Yes.
Oh, we have to pick out, yeah.
Okay.
We pick.
We hired them.
And we've
We
done
get
that in the
to,
past,
we get to
Jim,
pick it
as I
at, right? And
remember.
they pay.
Yes.
I think, Mr. Chairman, Tom Barron has his hand raised.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Tom.
you're talking about the frequency of meetings, and Karen, you mentioned quarterly. As long as we have a list, as long as it is right now, I think monthly is a reasonable frequency to try to get as much of this backlog taken care of. A month between meetings gives some time to do the necessary research on these different parcels. When we dispose of a good fraction of the list, then quarterly makes a lot more sense. But initially, I think we should consider
We'll try.
monthly to get the backlog taken care of. Otherwise, we'd only have 4 meetings in a year, and we'd have to have 10 items per meeting in order to move the bulk of that.
But Tom, isn't that a lot of that administrative right now with regards to the list of being able to identify and
Yeah.
put a spreadsheet together?
Well,
So I-
yes, I agree, Jim, and this is where finance is gonna come up with the master list that we should work from. This was a list that was generated almost a year and a half ago. Yeah, I agree, but we need that list from Ed and
We lost Ray.
and finance.
Right, and I'm just simply saying that
Tom,
time, so rather than have a meeting next month, let's give them some time to get that list
Yeah.
together.
Agreed,
They can
agreed,
tell us.
agreed.
this is Ed Centrio, Finance Director. That list that Tom Barron is waiving is our tax title or our foreclosed property list. That has not changed since the list was, it's on the website. That property list has not changed. So those are still the parcels that are to be reviewed. So you have that list. I think the other list that people are talking about is the list of all of the town property. But the tax title list
Right.
is fairly simple and straightforward versus
We'll see.
property that was obtained by the town in other ways.
And just to give you some context, the overall town property list is 534 properties is how I see it. So it's much
But-
more.
Yeah.
Much
But a lot of those have already been eliminated for any kind of consideration because they're all restricted.
Anything with a permanent
So-
restriction on it would come off of that list.
So
Yeah, that's
Kyle,
including-
you'll get us that list, though. You'll get us the tax title list at some point in time, so we can at
Yep.
least start to
Yes.
look at it.
I'll clean up this list. I'll get you the
Okay.
I can get you the tax title list. It sounds like Ed's got it on the website already. So
Maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that would be the foreclosed foreclosed property list.
Okay.
The tax title is obviously still owned by the resident or the property owner. So we would give you the foreclosed property list,
Okay.
which is on the website.
Is there a map that goes with that, Ed? I thought you had done a map up. Oh, map of foreclosed
Yes,
properties.
there
It's
is a
all
map.
on there. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll have to look at it when we find time.
It's on the
I've seen
website.
that-
I see it.
And
and-
Bruce Barrow did that.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Okay.
I've seen that map and it's like looking for ants on a dining room table. I mean, there's marking of the properties, but you can't see it in the map. You'd have to have everything blown up in order to read it correctly. But
On the
map-
topic, on the website.
What we can,
topic- Oh,
what we
sorry.
can do what we can do at the next meeting is show you all how to use Vision, because all you have to do is put in the map and lot number, and it will bring you right to the property and show you that map.
That's a great
So
suggestion,
the
Ed.
other map would allow you to, okay. The other map would allow you to explode it because it's a PDF, so you can zoom in, but the use of Vision would allow you to also get information, including the property record card.
I think that's part of what we want the assessor to come and
Talk to us about.
Right.
have him show us that while he's here.
Okay.
Real quick on the topic of the website, I just wanted to note that I did set up a web page. If anybody wants to submit a request to acquire a town-owned parcel, there is a section on the web page. You can do that now. Obviously, we're going to have to beef this up and expand this in the future. Hope to kind of put our inventory on this at some point.
Great.
But we have the kind of preliminary workings of a page here, at least.
Excellent.
All
Thank you.
in the form.
Where do you find the list? You just showed us that
Oh.
on the website.
Ed, is it on the finance page?
Yes, it's on the finance page if you go to the collector treasurer's site.
Just search foreclosed properties in the
Okay.
search thing and it'll come right to it. Top
Okay.
one.
All right. So Karen, do we have a
Okay.
date?
If you go
for-
down, Carl,
Got it.
right there.
I'm sorry, Rick, please go ahead.
Do we have a date for our next meeting?
No, well, would you like to schedule for a month's time then, and we can do the research on this last part
You're ready.
with
Yeah.
regards to value and maybe, Ed, maybe we can, at minimum, we could have Andy in that meeting if he's available.
That'd be perfect.
If not, I can cover it. I can show
Right,
you guys how to use Vision and,
Yep. So
Yeah.
right
No,
now, today is
not
1,
good.
2, 3, the third Wednesday of the month. The third Wednesday of February would be February 17. I don't know.
It's Tuesday, Karen. You're getting
February
ahead.
16.
Oh, man, it's only Tuesday?
Yeah, it just feels
Okay.
like Friday. Okay, there is an affordable housing trust at 4, so if we're
On the
going to do 2
16th.
hours each time, we just want to make sure we know that in advance so we can plan. It just gets a little difficult.
Yeah, sorry about that, Bob.
Well, no, and if there's a selectmen's meeting, that's another issue.
Right, and
Why don't we swap? Let's switch to Wednesdays. If that's works. for
Okay.
people.
even Thursday, but can I ask Bob, is Bob Thursday better? Knowing you're going
Well,
to
I'm
be.
working Tuesdays and
here.
Wednesdays. Thursday, no, in the afternoon. I think I've still got to do stuff at the county finance department with them.
Okay.
It's a half a day a week.
Okay, then let's go
With them.
Wednesday.
We could try Wednesday.
Shall we,
Wednesday CPA.
it is, I know, CPA.
Thursday is Concom.
Wednesday is also planning.
Okay.
Never mind.
Forget
If
it.
it's
Let's-
Tuesday, this must be Belgium, right?
Well, we can try Tuesday and see how long it goes. I mean,
We
you
could
know,
do an
we should try
earlier
to
time
limit
on-
this, like, hour and a half or something, so it doesn't.
Shall we
can
start
just
at
go
1 o'clock?
How about second Wednesday of the month, rather than first or third?
I think that if we started at 1, we could avoid any
Mhm.
potential conflict,
Okay.
Okay.
foreseen conflict.
So that would make the next meeting Tuesday, February 16th at 1 p.m.
Yes.
Right. I have a way. So. Okay,
I can send that out as a meeting invite so you guys can get that
Yeah.
on your calendar.
okay, I gotta kind of check out because I got another one now, I guess.
Okay.
Thank-
And Ed,
Thank you.
I'll have to talk with you sometime. The earliest I could meet with you is Friday. I don't have any other time this week.
If it's
unfortunately.
okay, I'll send you an email on
All
the tax levy process that we usually go through.
Okay, that'd be easiest. Thank you.
All right,
Yep.
everyone.
Sure.
I
Do you
think
have the budget?
I have nothing, unfortunately.
Okay, I'll get you everything.
Yeah, I maybe try to get in on Friday to pick up stuff and like that. I'm not sure.
Mr. Chairman.
Can I drop the book at your
I
house?
move to adjourn.
so moved.
Second,
Second,
Thank you. All in favor?
or roll call vote,
Just-
please. Christine,
Aye.
Jim Saban,
bye.
Tom Barron,
Aye.
Bob Latin,
Aye.
Paul Dignan,
Aye.
Brian Gardner,
Aye.
and Rick Bishop.
Aye. Karen, can you stay on